Okay, so basically what I'm saying is let's let go of the career ladder because it limits our learning and it holds us back, and it is not a good frame of reference for how we think about our careers. Instead, what we propose is this idea of thinking about our careers as a squiggle, the squiggly career. So what do we mean by this? What we mean is that on average, we're going to have 4 or 5 different types of career during our working lives. We know that's going to be true. We know that we're all going to be unlearning and relearning lots of new skills along the way and developing in loads of different directions. We don't want to feel limited by the ladder. Instead, we want to think about, what do you want your squiggle to look like? Your squiggle will be different to my squiggle. And we want to explore potential and possibilities. We do want to believe that we can, and that we can do things that we probably don't give ourselves credit for. There'll be jobs, especially in tech, in 2 years' time that we probably couldn't even imagine today. There'll be jobs that we don't even know exist in a couple of years' time. So we know that change and uncertainty is now just part of all of our lives and all of our careers. And so we're sort of all navigating this squiggle. And of course, during this squiggly career, there are these knotty moments. There are obstacles to overcome, there are these tough times, there are sort of inevitable challenges. And what we really want to help you to do is think about when these things come our way, how do we navigate these knotty moments with confidence and control and clarity? How do you make sure you're taking ownership of your own squiggly career? So practically, what does that look like? Our number one value at our company, Amazing If, is useful. We really want to be useful. It's not a very glamorous value, but it really does sum up what we try to do with our podcast, what we try to do with our talks. There's a reason I don't come up here and show you lots of PowerPoint slides, because no one needs more PowerPoint in their lives. And certainly in terms of inclusive learning, and we've heard quite a bit about inclusivity this morning, most of us are visual learners. And certainly if we want to learn and we want our learning to last longer, making anything visual, even if the drawings are a bit wonky at times, is sort of worth it. So this idea of resilience is talked about a lot. And often when we think of resilience, we think of it a bit like this. We're going along, and then there's some sort of bump in the road, and we have to figure out how to find our way kind of through or over that bump in the road. And they're the moments where we say we've got these moments of adversity where we need to be resilient. I would argue that the best time to invest in our resilience is before those moments come our way. Because in those moments, that's going to be tough. We already want to have what we describe as your resilience reserves ready to go. I want us all to be thinking about how do we every day, every week, build our resilience reserves, a bit like saving money in the bank, so that when those knotty moments do come your way, because we never quite know what's going to happen in our careers, you've got those things ready to draw on. You can kind of make a withdrawal from your resilience reserves. So that's what I wanted to think about a bit this morning with you, is how can you build your resilience reserves so they're there when you need them, so you can make the most of all the brilliant opportunities that come your way, and you can build your self-belief every day and really increase your confidence. So let's think about what that looks like. And as I said, we're very practical. So basically, I'm going to make you all do some work. You're like, just tell me the answers. I'm like, oh no, let's think about this together. So I'm going to talk to you about 6 different kind of areas and characteristics that we know help to build your resilience. And as I go through each of them, I'd just like you in your minds to be scoring yourself 0 to 5 on each of them. So we're essentially going to do a bit of a sort of spider web of where are you right now, and then think about the gaps you've got and some ideas for action to fill those gaps. So, first one, and there's no right or wrong, just think about where you are for each of these. So the first one is about asking for help. Some of us are really good at asking for the help that we need. Some of us don't ask for the help that we need because we get worried, we don't want to be a burden on other people. We know other people are busy. Maybe some of that inner critic kicks in, or if I ask for help, is someone going to think I'm not smart enough? Maybe that's not okay to do. But asking for help is a strength, not a weakness. We see in the research time and time again that all the best leaders across the world, one of the things that they are consistently good at is asking for the help that they need. Also, fun fact, when you ask someone for help, you're giving them, honestly, what scientists call a helper's high, like a natural high, a legal high, because you're giving someone that feel-good factor. Who doesn't like helping someone else? We feel really good when we help people. So never apologise or feel embarrassed about or stop yourself from asking for help. We all need help during our careers at different moments. And that help doesn't have to be a cry for help. That might be, I'd really appreciate your point of view or your perspective, or I'd love to get your ideas on something. So just think about, where would you be kind of 0 to 5 on this in terms of, do you feel confident asking for the help that you need? Maybe you kind of go on a 1 or a 2, maybe you're a 3 or 4. So just kind of in your mind, think about that now. The next one is about optimism. Now, this doesn't mean being relentlessly positive. No one wants to be around that person. But what this does mean is thinking, when times are tough, we know that optimists do 3 things really well. They're really good at spotting opportunities, really good at solving problems, and they're really good at asking for help. So we start to kind of connect the dots between the things that help us to be resilient. And so thinking about, for you, like, how optimistic do you feel? And there are actually ways that we can build a sort of optimistic environment around ourselves. This is not sort of something you either have or you don't have. There are things that we can do to feel more optimistic. And of course this changes, this oscillates week on week, month on month, especially over the past couple of years. So maybe think about right here, right now, like, how optimistic are you feeling about yourself, your career? Do you feel like you're heading in the right direction in terms of where you're going? So where might you be on that? The next one, and I would say women do tend to be worse at this than men, is how good are you at spotting and sharing and celebrating your successes? So are you good at kind of celebrating that stuff that goes well, where you think, I did that and I made a positive contribution, I had a positive impact there? And do you do that consistently? Or do you maybe once a year give yourself a sort of a reluctant high five when no one's looking? If you don't shine a spotlight on your strengths, it's really hard for other people to do that on your behalf. We want people to sponsor us and to advocate us for us and on our behalf, but that sort of does need to start with us. So some of us feel more comfortable with that than others. So maybe think about where are you on that right now. Next one, have you got the right people around you? Have you got a range of people supporting you in your career? What's the strength of your career community? We know that in those moments where you have a tough time and a moment of adversity, we don't want our development to be dependent on just one person. It's useful to have a few people around us who can give us different perspectives, who can offer us something different, who perhaps know us in different ways. So have you really thought consciously and intentionally about, have you got the right people around you? And importantly, have you got those supporters and those sponsors, those cheerleaders and those champions, those people who you just know every time you spend time with them, they will boost your self-belief, which is particularly important in some of those kind of knotty moments. And then, this has been hard over the last couple of years, and I think often we're not very good at this. Are we making sure that we are resting and recovering? So not burning out and then resting and recovering, but resting and recovering as we go, almost recognising that we need to do that and continually prioritise that. And then we then don't get to those kind of burnout moments, those moments of feeling really overwhelmed. We know that over the last couple of years, people have used the time when they used to commute to work more in the main. I don't know if that feels familiar for any of you, but certainly what we've not seen much of is, I've just spent more time having fun. I'm just so fit these days. I was very fit when I was told I couldn't exercise. So then I was like, well, of course I need to exercise. And suddenly I was like, running? I was like, what has happened to me? And as soon as the lockdown one stopped, I'm like, I just stopped running again. So I was like, okay, so I've just gone back to my sort of normal state. And so how good are you at kind of looking after your own rest and recovery, knowing that brain breaks, as we call them, are so important if we want to do our best work? We won't do our best work by just working more. It's often what we want to do. We think, oh, we've got a lot to do, I'll just work harder, I'll just work longer, whereas ultimately probably the best thing you can do is to take a break. So where are you on that right now? And then the last one is thinking a bit about your world outside of work, all of those other things that are really important to you, your family, your friends, your passions, your hobbies, personal projects, things that you volunteer for. Again, the last couple of years, often I think we're in a moment right now where we're thinking, sort of rediscovering or reimagining what that might look like for us. But that world outside of work is so important to give us perspective, to remind us that we are more than our job. As much as we might care about our job and be really passionate about it, and certainly I am, we don't want to get to that point where work is all of who we are, that it makes up all of our identity. We want to create that work-life fit in a way that works for us. So what does that look like for you right now? So in your mind, I'm hoping you've sort of got some sort of wonky spider web that maybe looks something like this right now. So if you're going to go away and do this after today, have a go at doing your wonky spider web and then think, which of these areas feels like your priority right now? What's the gap you want to fill? What we're not aiming for here is 6 5s. You're not trying to do all of these things all at the same time. That will never feel realistic. But what you might do is think, actually, I realise I've really neglected my rest and recovery. I really want to sort of prioritise and spend a bit of time doing that. Or actually, it's been a really tough start to the year, so I'm not feeling as optimistic as I would like. So I'm going to do something about that. I'm going to think about what I'm going to change, what actions I could take. So broadly until this point, what we're trying to think about is investing in our resilience reserves, so they're there when we need them, these really helpful skills that we can practice all of the time, thinking about where we are right now and where we'd like to be. And then I just want to spend a bit of time on some ideas for action. So until this point, we've still maybe got that question of like, well, so what? So how do I do this? And I thought we would have a go at this first idea for action. So one of the things that typically we're not very good at when it comes to successes is seeing what's called all of our very small successes. We're often quite good at reflecting back on a year and thinking, here's one brilliant thing I did in the last 12 months. But when we share the good stuff, we tend to share the headlines. Oh, I did this project, yeah, it went really well, it delivered the things it needed to do, and then we sort of stop talking quite quickly. I then ask you to share a mistake that you've made in the past 6 months or year, and I get an essay. I get all the ins and outs, I get everything you've done wrong, everything you should have done differently, and I sort of have to stop you because you could just keep going for ages. And that is because our brains do have what's called a negativity bias. So our brains do spend more time recalling and processing and reflecting on those things that don't go well. It's kind of our brain's way of looking after us, but we have to rebalance that bias in our brains. We've got to see the good stuff. And so this idea of very small successes is making sure that daily and weekly we start to see all the things that are going well. And this can be particularly important, I think, if you're having a wobble. And like in that first lockdown in the pandemic, I had decided 8 weeks before the pandemic that now was the time to leave the companies that I've worked for in all of my career, big companies like Sainsbury's and Barclays, and run Amazing If full time. We'd done it a bit as a side project. It was sort of a fun hobby, myself and Helen, my co-founder. And 8 weeks before the pandemic, when our first book came out and went really well, I thought, now is the time. I could not have planned this more perfectly. And then for 8 weeks, it felt like a really good decision. And then I was walking down a road just near where I live, getting a coffee, just as the pandemic was just starting to happen and the lockdown was sort of on the horizon. And in 48 hours, I watched all of our income for 2020 disappear. We literally, the sort of business that we do was quite like this. So everything dropped off a cliff in 2 days. And I just remember standing there thinking, my first thought was, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to afford overpriced coffee anymore. Like this, when your brain does like weird things to you. And I remember thinking that. Then I had to move back with my parents and my 3-year-old so that I could keep working, because of childcare reasons. Thought we were going for a couple of weeks. 10 weeks later, still there. And listening to that song earlier today, I still can't quite listen to that Kelly Clarkson song. What won't kill you makes you stronger. So as I was doing my running thing in lockdown 1, like the new Sarah, I thought I was doing okay in the pandemic. Helen and I were like, we've got a plan, we're pivoting, all our stuff's going online, okay. Went for a run, heard that song when I was running, and just had to stop running because I was crying. It was so bleak. And until that point, I felt like I was doing okay. And I remember stopping halfway through this run, hearing that song and just thinking, well, this is not making me stronger. This is just going to kill me. Like, I'm not going to make it to the end of this run. it's too hard for a start. There's a hill at the end, and oh my God, what's going to happen to our business? So I don't like that song. I listened earlier, I was like, oh my God, I'm really glad I'm not next. So, particularly in those really hard moments, you're seeing your very small successes helps. It helps with that optimism, and it helps us to see the good stuff as well as the things that feel hard. So I thought we would just take just 2 minutes and just chat to the person next to you, introduce yourself quickly, or do it in 2s and 3s, and just share one very small success you've had this week. What, personal or professional? Okay, so just like, how did that feel? Like the energy in the room there, people smiling. I mean, you might be introverted like me, and the idea of speaking to someone you don't know, you're like, oh, this is a bit awkward. And it is a bit awkward for like 10 seconds, but then you start thinking of something, and the more you do this, the easier it gets. A few things to remember if you're going to do this exercise. What we know, remember the 3 R's, and the middle R is particularly important. So first of all, we want to recognise our very small successes. So even me talking about it for long enough this morning, hopefully in your head you've started to kind of process what those successes are. We're readdressing that kind of negativity bias that we have in our brains. This one is particularly important. We know from all the evidence that when we write our very small successes down, or when we say them out loud, we have a different relationship with them. You've had to figure out how to say it to someone. You've had to figure out how to write it down in a sentence. We've heard this morning how powerful it is to write things down. It sort of takes something from being abstract to something being concrete. We sort of believe it a bit more when we do that, when we say it and when we write it. So remember to do something with that. Kind of don't keep it all kind of locked up inside. And it improves the quality of our reflections and our self-awareness. We start to see trends and themes. Oh, actually, I'm particularly good at problem solving. I'm particularly good at collaborating, at coming up with new ideas and new solutions. You can do this individually. Do it at the end of the day. Write it in the notes section of your phone. Do it for 8 or 9 days, maybe in those tough times. That's how I use this. Anytime I'm having like a tricky week, or I just feel like things are going badly, and I need to sort of boost my own optimism, and I feel like I need to kind of increase those resilience reserves, I do it myself. We also do it as a team. So as an Amazing If team, we do Win of the Week every Friday. So we use Teams, Microsoft Teams, and someone just goes onto Teams, starts a new thread, and writes Win of the Week, and everybody just goes on and shares their Win of the Week. So then what we're doing is increasing our collective confidence as well as our individual confidence. So much of resilience, and when you read about resilience, is focused on I, or almost like, how do you become more resilient? And there's a lot of emphasis on kind of individual perspectives, and I think it's just as powerful to think about, well, how can we help each other to be resilient, help each other to increase our confidence? And doing something like Win of the Week definitely does that. Plus, it's just a really, really nice way to end the week. So definitely steal that idea if that feels like that might work for you. Last thing I just wanted to encourage you to do, and especially given you're all here today, and we've already heard a bit already about the power of community and getting the right people around you. Really think about, for your resilience, have you got the right range of people supporting you in your career? There's a great phrase from Ethne O'Leary. So she's one of the few female CEOs at investment banks. And she said to me, no one has a monopoly on wisdom. And she was like, why wouldn't I go and get as many people as possible around me to give me their insights and their advice? And Warren Buffett has a great phrase where he says, when people tell me they've learnt from experience, I tell them the key is to learn from other people's experiences. Like, get out and borrow brilliance and borrow excellence from other people. Don't feel like you have to kind of do this by yourself. No one succeeds by themselves. And so just thinking a bit about your personal board, think about the roles that you might have. And I just want to talk you through very quickly some of the roles it's worth thinking about. And we've done a podcast episode on this as well, which expands on it even further, and I'll let you know what episode number that is, because there are quite a few episodes, and that's all free. So firstly, have you got a challenger? Have you got someone who disagrees with you? I've got a mentor, a guy who's mentored me now for probably 10 years, and every time I talk to John, I think, how did you even come up with that? Where did that come from? Because he approaches problems so differently to me. I also disagree with him 90% of the time. And I'm like, I'm never going to do that, John. Not in a million years. But it does make me pause for thought. And I found that useful. So have that person who challenges you, who you disagree with, who you just think, I never quite anticipate what they're going to say. Make sure you've got an ideator. Make sure you've got someone who can give you new ideas, new insights, who's very good at options and possibilities and scenarios. Have you thought about, oh, imagine if, or what about? Those people who are just really good at seeing the art of the possible. Surrounding ourselves with those people is really important. Absolutely look out for the connectors of this world. Those people who are brilliant at bringing people together for events tend to be very good connectors. Hint. Anyone who you see, people get a lot of energy from connecting people, and that can be really useful when we're thinking about exploring maybe new opportunities, new possibilities. So look out for those people who you just think they are incredibly well connected. You know those people who are like, oh, I know someone who could. And say out loud, what are you looking for? Oh, I'm really interested in exploring moving from a fast-growing startup to maybe a big established organization. Like, do you know anyone who's made that move who I could go and talk to? They're the people who are always like, yeah, absolutely. And then they'll make the introduction, which as an introvert is dreamy. I don't even have to do like the cold, oh, hi, can we have a chat? Someone else has sort of made it a bit easier for you. So look out for those connectors. It's really useful to always have an empathizer. Those people don't need to be in your world right now, but you don't have to explain your world that much, if that makes sense. So usually maybe they have been in that world or they know it really well. So you've not got to go into loads of detail. Like for lots of you here today, I've never worked in sort of tech. You'd have to explain quite a lot to me maybe about the nuances of your industry and kind of how it works. But if you talk to each other, you can bypass loads of that stuff and just get straight to, oh, well, I'm sort of struggling a bit with X at the moment. And someone straight away goes, yeah, I get it. I've been there. I kind of understand that. So look out for those empathizers. Find some really good questioners. Those people who ask the questions that maybe you're avoiding, that you've been ignoring, the questions that you need to hear to further your thinking, to get unstuck, to maybe to give yourself confidence sometimes. So just who are those people who just automatically, whenever you share a problem or an idea with them, their default is to ask a question rather than to offer a solution. And we all need those supporters, those people who are by our side, celebrating our successes, reminding us how brilliant we are, that in those moments where we're not sure if we can, they will say, well, no, absolutely believe you can, and I know you can, and they give you 3 examples of why you are as brilliant as you are. And there's more roles than this, of course, but I think it's often quite helpful, rather than necessarily thinking about the person in the first instance, to think more about, well, what do you need right now? In terms of where you are in your career, curate your own personal board and think about almost the cognitive diversity that you want around you. Matthew Syed does some great work on this idea of cognitive diversity, which is essentially bringing the right people around you, all in the pursuit of helping you to be as incredible as you can be. That's what we want to do in our careers now. We want everyone to have a career as individual and as brilliant as you all are. And you can absolutely do loads of this for yourself. I see time and time again, the people who are navigating their squiggly careers most successfully with control and confidence and clarity, the first thing is always, they just take ownership for it. They're the person who cares about their career, and they're prioritizing themselves. They're prioritizing their learning. Michelle Obama says we've got to stop putting ourselves at the bottom of our own to-do lists. You know that like, oh, at some point I'll go to that event, or at some point I'll do some of that stuff that Sarah talked about. I'll do it at 5 p.m. on a Friday. I mean, who does anything at 5 p.m. on a Friday? Don't do your learning at 5 p.m. on a Friday. Do it at 9 a.m. on a Monday. Do it as like the first thing in your week. Because then when we sort of get used to behaving in this way and acting in this way, sort of putting our career center stage, that's when all the exciting opportunities come our way. And do it in really small, practical, realistic ways. So maybe have a think about your personal board. And just finishing with a quote from Brené Brown. She says, joy collected over time fuels resilience. A really good reminder to enjoy ourselves, to have fun, to take time to do our learning and to develop ourselves. Because that's when, we should enjoy the work that we do. We spend a lot of time at work. So let's make the most of it and let's not limit ourselves or limit our learning. I do hope that has been useful. I hope I've lived up to our company #1 value of being useful. I always feel like I stand on stage doing a keynote, and then I'm like, I'm going to do some drawings, and then I'm going to make you do some work. So I hope that has been OK. Any of you can connect with me on LinkedIn if you just use my email address, because I am one of the annoying people that has follow. So I was listening to that going, yeah, that's me. The reason for that is otherwise people sell you a lot of shit. So that's the reason I have it. But you can all take a picture of my email address, and you can all get hold of my email address. It's just sarah@amazingif.com. Anyone here today, if you put that in when you go onto LinkedIn, I'll connect with everybody. The other thing that I'll talk to Becky and the team about is if anyone wants to come on any of our open workshops this year, so we do things like strengths and values and confidence and networking, we'll do a free place for everyone in the room. So we'll sort out how that looks for you.